So you got that covered. So September 11th here, 4 o'clock. Parks, Pathways, Reserves meeting. Can we do a roll call? You want to do that, Heather?
Yep, got you. Heather Berkovitz here, Chris Chang,
Here.
Rita Lindorf here, Steve Hurt,
Here.
Steve Kern,
Here.
Patrick McLaughlin. Absent, Thomas Morris.
Here.
Roy Townsend,
Here.
Liz Wiseman,
Here.
John Reiser. Absent, and Murphy Harrington here.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So wait, well, some of us have met Murphy, but not everyone has. Murphy Harrington is our new parks director. I think some of you may have met her. So welcome Murphy. Some of us have been working with her on projects. Say anything?
I don't know. I have things to say during my talk
Report.
about, the report about the
Okay.
parks, but in general, just catching up, a lot of catching up and learning the ropes.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. So with that, we'll move on to item C, the motion to adopt the agenda. I'll move.
And I'll second.
Second. Any additions or changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. Oh, yeah, good call. Go ahead, Liz.
We're just gonna.
Introduce Murphy, because I know Murphy might not know all of us.
I'm Liz Wiseman.
And if like you're associated with like another committee.
The land preservation. Right, is how I got to sit in this group, which makes me very happy.
I'm Steve Kern. I've been working with different versions of this committee. It was tapped prior to being PPP. And I am a Scio Township resident, of course, live out on Tubbs Road. And been, well, working with Roy and the folks here for a while. So nice to meet you.
Roy Townsend, I've been on TAB Parks for quite a few years as before overseeing committee. So I've been involved with the township for probably a decade or more in park projects.
She probably knows me more than she.
I know.
But I'm Rita Lindorf. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm Heather Berkovitz. I'm the secretary for this committee. That's what I do. Can you take notes?
I'm Tom Morris. I'm a relatively new member of the committee. I'm not on any other committees. And I've only lived in South Township for about 3.5 years and have a law practice in Dexter.
I'm Steve Hurt, and very similar bio to Tom, but for the law practice. And citizen of Scio, and happy to be on the committee.
And probably recruited by Bob.
Absolutely. Bob Calhoun, who I believe.
We will, I'm trying to get him to come and make an appearance at some point
Very good.
to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that was sort of deep introductions and recognition. Right? Good job, thank you. So we'll go on to item E, public comment. This is opportunity for the public to speak for 3 minutes on any matter period of the Parks, Pathway, and Preserves. First, we'll take people here in the audience, and then after that, we'll take online. So anyone in the audience would like to talk during 3 minutes?
I don't have 3 minutes to talk, but I'd say a few words.
Sure.
So, again, my name is Jim Hartwell. Oh, I gotta come up. Forgot, sorry. Jim Hartwell, president of the Scio Flyers, and we're here in the interest to the Eagle Scout presentation. So we're very interested in seeing what they have to say and the enhancements on Township Hall Park. I'm here to represent the interest of the Flyers in that topic.
And come back. Marvin, thanks for coming back.
I'm coming back a lot.
All right, good. Anyone else? Okay. Chris, anyone have their hand up remotely?
We don't have anyone with their hand up at the moment. Yes, but no hands are raised.
Okay. Also, just for clarification, I do need to leave at 5 o'clock, so if you see me leaving, at 5 o'clock. It's not, and then Rita's gonna take over from there. So it's not like anything's going on with what's going
It's not
on in
like
the
we can all
agenda at
be-
that point in time. I just have another commitment I have to go to. So let's move on to item F. Possible approval of the minutes from August 13th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Second.
Any edits, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I'm sorry, I do have a quick question, because
Quick
I
question.
did miss that meeting, so maybe I'm not putting these things together in a proper timeline. But it looks like, although it was June, I'm assuming it was in the packet that we got from Chris earlier, that we signed a letter with Michigan Recreational Construction for them to provide construction concepts for a play area.
Mhm.
Okay, and how, I know we've mentioned the company in past meetings, but I don't remember actually getting this far with the discussion. Did I just not hear that at all?
There was a resolution that we approved
Okay,
at, was it the June meeting? I'll have, it must have been the June
well,
meeting.
this contract was signed in June, so it must have been way back before that, I would
I think it was
imagine.
just later in June now.
June sixth?
Look on, when did it? was-
Oh, I'm sorry, there's the signature. Yes, August, okay.
So it was signed,
Yep.
you approved it the June
Okay.
meeting, and then it was signed in
Okay,
August.
thanks, that's a good reminder though. All right,
Thanks
So,
for asking.
yep,
right,
I bet a lot of people.
so,
okay, thanks.
anything else on August minute? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes. Okay, on to item G, reports, update on township parks. Murphy?
Yes. So I think there's a lot to go over, not in every park, but in a few parks, there's a lot happening. I'll start with, if you go to the parks website, the first tab under the parks website is community engagement. And if you go there, you'll see that there are 5 upcoming events that have been listed. So we're starting to pilot the community engagement programs. They are not volunteer based, not actively like working in the field, but more targeted towards getting people in the community to our different parks for different types of programs. Upcoming, we have that program, and then we're gonna be doing constellations, and they're targeted towards a large range of ages. Some of them are targeted specifically for younger groups, and then some of them are for all kids in general to attend. So that'll be happening in the next 3 months. So keep that on your radar and let people know to attend and to pre-register if you can. Then,
Murphy, I'm sorry, I have a quick question.
Yes.
When you say on the parks, I'm on the Scio Township website looking for parks.
okay, so if you go to community, and then it's all the way at the bottom is parks,
Alright.
pathways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry, go ahead.
That's great. So I'll go over the individual parks now. The update for Van Curler is that the Prairie Burn, which you probably already know, has been approved by Board of Trustees for spring of 2025. Any questions about that?
So it is set to take place in the fall.
In the spring.
Yeah, oh,
Spring of 25.
I'll be here in just a minute.
Well,
Let us know.
you'll keep us up to date, that'd be fun. I would like it to see how they do that.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll ask too, because I think it
Yeah.
would be a cool opportunity as long as the company is okay with it to have some community members
Mhm.
watch. Or yeah, I don't know if they let people volunteer, but I think it would be awesome if they did.
yeah,
So keep that in mind too.
And Steve, the reason you probably thought it was in the fall is we talked about doing it in the fall.
Yeah,
But the predominant plant there is goldenrod, and it's just not gonna burn well in the fall.
oh, okay,
So it got moved to
Great.
the spring.
Good.
Either that or the schedule's too busy, but whatever, that was. how it got moved.
good. And I thought there was a concern though, maybe perhaps it was salamanders in the spring that we were worried about. And so we're gonna go goldenrod versus salamanders, and
we can go really early maybe?
I
Maybe
think
that's what we're
it's
thinking is
March.
super early in the spring,
Okay.
and hopefully.
Before they
Salamanders
come
are
on,
really
yeah,
moving,
okay, that'd be great.
which means it has to be pretty cold.
Uh,
They might be
Okay.
able to do February. They did. You can do it early.
Yeah.
I would be happier.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, good, thanks.
Okay, next is Liberty Pond, and currently I'm working on two companies. Or currently there are two companies in the process of creating bids for a burn at Liberty. Ideally, it would be this fall, maybe in November. But it just depends on how busy they are, what their thoughts are on burning in the fall versus the spring. And so after they've done their site walks, either individually or with me, they'll give their bid and their recommendation, and then I'll come back to you all with that information.
And that's
But I'm
because
excited about it.
For NG's, those tall things.
Oh, so that will not be the area we're targeting right now. It's gonna be more in the, it's 11 acres total, and it'll be kind of where all the teasel is right now. There's kind of a mixture between goldenrod and teasel that's just taken over more towards Wildwood entrance. And then I do have a plan to start working on the Phragmites, but I won't be doing like a burn method. So just waiting for that to, but once I have a plan, I'll let you know.
And if I may just kind of interject, since we're talking about Liberty Pond, I just want to give big props to Murphy for going out there. We've had a sunken paddle boat out there. If you've been out there, that half submerged, and then somebody clearly probably vandalized the paddle boat. She did make it a priority and got that paddle boat out of there this morning. So I have to give a big
It's very
credit.
satisfying.
Thank you. Put it out there in her waders, and she just had hooked it up to a rope and started pulling, and we hooked it up to a truck, and it's finally out of the
Out of
pond. So
there.
congrats
Yeah.
to
And
Murphy
then-
for doing that.
Yeah, and the other one, we put up signs asking people to come take their property, and somebody did take the blue boat. Can't say for sure who it was, but it is not there anymore.
Hmm.
So,
Look,
Now we
do
can-
you have past experience with burns?
yes, oh, I do. Yeah, I've burned with Mathi Botanical Gardens and with NAP in Ann Arbor. Township Hall Park, an update being that we met with Eagle Scout Brandon, who's here today, and will be giving us an update about his concepts. And we also met with Dan from MRC, and together they collaborated, so we'll hear an update about that project. And then Sloan. Oh, yes, so I'm not sure how many people's radar it's been on, but there was a small issue with Dave Lutton trying to get access to his property through Sloan. There's just like some confusion going on there, but we met with the city, the township attorney and Joyce, and got that sorted out. So he has permission to walk in, or the company that he's contracted has permission to walk in to get their samples to send to Eagle to figure out what remediation plan they need for that area. And then we'll go forward with creating the contract with the attorney to figure out a temporary easement and restoration. Thank you. And that's, yeah, that's all for the parks right now.
So, you know, we could do, we'll go through the reports, then we'll come back to Township Hall Park.
Okay,
So
sure.
then Brandon, Dan, we don't have, keep here all meeting. Anything from planning, usually Riser does that, he's not here.
We sent a written report.
He's on his way.
This piece.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. How about land preservation?
I was out of state for the last meeting, so the only thing I know, which is a sad thing to report, is that our wonderful chair, Will Weber, who's been on land preservation for 8 years now, is stepping down. So that's a loss for us. He's just wonderful at getting along with people and listening to all sides, and anyway, we hate to see him go, but tomorrow's his last week. So I don't have anything to report.
Okay, he says that, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Roads, I was the person from Roads, I actually stepped down from Roads, so I didn't go to the last meeting. So I don't have a report. DDA. There's no one sure.
Oh, Will is here too. Will, do you want to give us a report with the DDA?
Sure. Hello.
Hello. The DDA met on Monday and discussed the sort of current status of the concept plans that the Johnson Hill firm have been producing. I brought them along in my hard copies. So you've all seen these concepts. So unfortunately, Johnson Hill didn't have someone here for your last meeting when the Scio Flyers came and you guys talked about the concepts. So I tried to relay to the folks at Johnson Hill my understanding of the sort of key issues that came out. I checked with Chris to make sure I'd gotten them correctly. And confirmed with the DDA that the DDA will pay for sort of another round of concepts from Johnson Hill to incorporate the input that was received. So for example, that their concepts had options for Scio Flyers to take off on a north-south axis. And that won't work. It really has to be the east west directions. So they're gonna pull all of that input in and come back hopefully later this month with some new concepts.
Okay.
So that's basically where we're at. I think that the DDA from the discussion there at the board, that's probably the limit of where they're going to spend in near term. And I think, depending on where this body moves in terms of next steps with Township Hall Park, they may or may not be involved. I think their interest really has been in the active playing fields of one kind or another. That's the thing that seems to have captured that group's interest. There doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of patience with the sort of incremental approach. So I don't know to what degree the DDA will be involved in terms of funding major elements of Township Hall Park going forward. But there's a possibility there, depending on when the Parks, Preserves and Pathways Committee is ready to work on playing fields. Any questions?
I have a question. I know you can't speak for anybody on DDA other than.
Except for myself.
Other than yourself. But when we were approached by the DDA initially, my recollection was the desire for soccer fields, active use kinds of areas. And that would be, kind of right off the bat, let's do something like that. And, we, of course, were wanting to be more cautious and look at other things and maybe incrementally, as you said, get to that point, maybe. But then I believe the chair of the DDA then sent an email out shortly after that first meeting and acknowledged that just weren't ready for active use because he listed, now I can't remember exactly everything he listed, but he kind of talked himself out of it right off the bat. But yet it sounds like after a couple of months that happened a couple of months ago, that that's still the idea that the DDA knows that they can't like having safety patrols, like he was comparing it to the Washtenaw County Parks way in which they kind of take care of their parks. They have people in cars and drive around and security and they do all this, and he acknowledged we're just not ready for that. We can't even do that, but yet they spend the money to do these, come up with these ideas and know that we're not ready for an active use field right off the bat. And so they're gonna spend all that money and then just let it not go anywhere. I mean, why not incrementally work your way there if you can get there? Why bother to spend that time and money if you're just gonna kill the idea as soon as you're done spending the money?
I guess I would characterize it a little differently.
Okay.
So the Johnson Hill concepts are just that, they're concepts. They're meant to be um illustrations capturing all the different ideas that are being discussed. But also trying to do it in a way that's potentially buildable. So you know, you wouldn't want to show, for example, an orientation for a landing field for the Scio Flyers that they can't use. Or put a parking lot in the middle of the area that this committee wants to reserve for, you know, people to use. So I think, you know, some of those things they're adjusting so that they're a final set of concepts that's more aligned with what this group and, you know, the other constituencies really want to see eventually. But but I think, you know, if you, and I'm hoping that the guy from Johnson Hill will come back and talk with this group when those concepts are complete. The idea of those concept drawings is to sort of move the visioning process along. The way that I would see this group's role is, you know, advising the Board of Trustees on which elements of the park come first, you know, which things are doable in the near term and which things are gonna take longer to achieve for whatever reason. I think the reaction from Bob Stites, I think that's who you're talking about, is the chair of the DDA. His reaction was born out of, I think, you know, kind of bumping up against this project that for the first time and not really understanding sort of all of the history that's, you know, gotten it to this point. But being kind of impatient to see the part of it that he really cares about coming sooner.
So can I ask, I don't want to cut you off, but
No, it's all right, I probably should.
one of the things you said was fields. Does that mean they want more than one field, or are they okay with one field?
I
heard of S.
Yes, well, I think Bob is, you know, he's sort of,
Bob's one guy of how many?
he's the chair of the DDA.
I understand that. How many votes does he have?
Well, he's very influential in the current DDA, and that's, I guess, the other thing I would say is that there's an upcoming turnover, I think, on the DDA. Many of their appointments expire in early 2025. I would expect that the incoming Board of Trustees will.
What does the DDA want through its majority votes for the park behind it?
The current DDA.
That's right. Have they expressed?
To the degree that they have focused on this, would like to see active playing fields kinds of uses on that.
Like, is the playground active? Is the swing set active? Is it tetherball?
Sports.
What's that? Okay.
I think, you know, and that's partly a function of Bob's interests and vision.
And is Bob Stites rotating off the DDA or out of his position in
That's-
January?
I guess that's sort of up to him and up to the incoming Board of
What is
Trustees.
the term act?
Many of them end in early 2025 because all of them had expired, all, not just the DDA, but almost every advisory board position in Scio Township had expired when we took office in 2020, and we appointed a whole bunch of people all at once. And it just so happens that DDA terms are 5 years long.
So do you guys spend your own money, or do you make recommendations for the board to spend?
The DDA did, when it approved its budget, approve, I think, $250,000 potentially to spend on Township Hall Park, which is what sort of led to the conversation between the DDA and this group.
But if you wanted to put a yellow brick road back there at $250,000, is that something you can sign the check for, or does it have to go to the board?
The DDA.
I mean, I don't mean you. I'm
No,
talking.
no,
does
yes.
the DDA
No,
does the DDA have the power of the purse?
Yes. But I mean, authorizing the expenditure is one thing. changing of property belonging to Scio Township is another.
I think we're sort of getting into the weeds a little. We're looking
I
at
know.
cops, I know, but we're looking at
Yeah.
concepts, we hit some concepts, they're gonna bring back more concepts. We're not gonna be building anything this fall, I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I think that's the
I mean-
near term answer
We
is,
know what we're gonna do, if we're gonna do anything,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's what we're starting to figure out, if and what. So let's not, I mean.
Well, so I guess.
No, but I guess my point is like, it's. I get that it's a political process and it's a process of give and take and it's working collaboratively together. And what is your vision? What is our vision? So we have the interest of the DDA. We have the interest of one guy in the DDA. We have the interest of the PPP. We have the interest of the BOT, the current BOT, the incoming BOT. And somewhere in there, you throw it in there and you make some sausage and then you get something back there. You know,
So I kind of was more, I was gonna bring it back to the idea that we have this concept from Michigan Recreational Construction for the play space. We have Brandon, and then we have the Flyers, and then we have the DDA. So we have quite a few different, and not just the BOT and one man or one woman, it's, we have things in motion, money being spent. And I'm just wondering, getting into the weeds or not, how much time are we spending on the DDA plan when they already, as I said initially, have talked themselves out of their plan? Now, fine, they can put it in the archives, it's great, but if they want and are only gonna spend money on active use fields right out of the gate, what are we talking about that for? We're not doing that. We know we can't do that.
Yeah, I think the reality that sank in is that the playing fields weren't gonna happen in the near term.
Right.
And once that became clear for whatever reason, the interest of the DDA chair, who really does, wield a sort of strong leadership role in that group.
there is one vote.
Well, he brings along a few other votes. I've witnessed it happen. So once that became clear, he basically was like, well, let's play out this planning process that we initiated and see where, what that produces. But I think in his view, we're gonna wait and see what happens in terms of the park, and when the park is, or this group is ready to move forward with playing fields, because that's always been a part of the vision for Township Hall Park. Then I think, the DDA could be approached again, and, depending on who's there at that time, they may be able to partner with this group. But there's a lot of moving parts at this stage, both with the DDA, with the Board of Trustees. And so I think probably the best thing to, in terms of thinking about next steps, is to think about the money that's more, sort of set aside for this purpose, not attached to the DDA, as the funding source in the near term.
But surely the DDA must be interested in a nice park, an improved park within the DDA district, which we are here, correct?
I wouldn't say they're disinterested, I'd just say they're,
But if they don't get sports playing fields, they're gonna take their ball and go home. No pun intended.
That sounds good.
That's right.
That's right.
That's what I've said.
Yeah.
That's how it's being conveyed, whether you mean to or not. I mean, maybe.
It is. No, that's definitely it.
And when I was approached about this, some of the things that we talked about was the possibility of having the bathrooms open, since there is a park here. And the bathrooms were intended to service the park. It would be nice to finish them and put the fixtures in and make them bathrooms. And there's a little bit of shifting going on with, maybe it'll be one bathroom because the other room may be used for another purpose. So maybe it'll just be one bathroom. So we're getting a little bit of pushback on that too. I'm kind of trying to bring Murphy up to speed a little bit here too. So there's been a little bit of pushback about bathrooms and about,
Sorry, Rita, who's pushing back on that? Who's
do you have
pushing
to
back?
name names?
Oh, no,
Oh, I don't
is it
wanna be-
another committee?
No, but there is some pushback on the bathrooms.
Okay,
Okay.
I didn't know
It's
that.
like slow
Okay,
this
all right.
down.
All right.
But the bathrooms are there, the fixtures, the plumbing is done, it's just putting fixtures in.
Yeah.
So we haven't really, the shoe hasn't dropped and said, okay, we're ready to go with the bathrooms. That's not, and Murphy's been, looking at doors that can be, kind of locked at a certain time automatically. Anyway, these are all things, I've been sitting at the table since
Mhm.
2017, and I've got so many drawings of what to do with the Township Hall Park. And so none of this happened last week.
Mhm.
This isn't really new to anybody. The park's been there for over 3 decades. So as far as trying to make those playing fields sort of like a metro park or something like that, we do have Murphy. This is probably her 10th day of working here, or something like,
Fourth week.
Fourth week, okay, fourth week. And, so we've had a lot of moving parts. And so we're trying to get our footing and get our bearings, but stay focused and on course. And so one thing we've talked about is our little playground. And that has been on the plan since about 2017, because we walked out there and looked at the space and talked about where to put the pavilion and where things can go. And the part that we chose is in the part where there is, the contour does change, and so it's not completely flat. So it's probably the best place to have a playground.
Yes.
So that's why we keep just trying to move this far down the road a little bit further.
Just to, because I know you've got a long agenda, I just to tie up the part with the DDA. I think the reality is that the DDA isn't really sort of oriented towards parks. So even bringing them to the table to talk about this was sort of an accomplishment. I was a little surprised that the focus, the emphasis was so much on playing fields and playing fields first before anything else. And I agree, it doesn't seem that reasonable, but that is sort of how it played out, and that's where we're at. And so I think regardless of what the politics are of the DDA going forward, currently or going forward, I think the reality for this group is probably to focus on the things that you want to do first. And I think from prior discussions, it sounded like the plan was to make improvements to the perimeter path, make it more ADA compliant, and to add the natural play space playground. And that maybe those are the steps that happen first. And then the next steps are, come down the line, and then eventually, depending on what happens with the DDA, I mean, there's so many different things that could happen with them, not just membership, but also they're in the process of updating their plan, which, now is probably start over from scratch. So, that there's a lot of different things that could happen.
Your plan, are you saying the DDA's redoing its plan or its vision or rethinking what it wants to do? Or the DDA's contractor is kind of coming up with something, a different iteration?
No, this is not Township Hall Park plan. This is the DDA's overall plan.
You guys are gonna focus on something else down Jackson Road?
Well, the last plan update for the DDA was done, I think, in 2006. And the DDA has been working on an update of that plan for, I don't know, over a year. And I don't know that they're gonna cross the finish line. It doesn't seem like it. So, a new DDA membership will occur to some degree next year. And a new plan will come out, and who knows what will be in the plan. But
We don't, and can I just say one thing though, I want to say on the record, that a lot of this conversation I find very problematic, because we're talking about what the DDA wants, what we want, what BOT wants, whatever, and what we're not talking about is really ultimately at the end of the day what the community wants. And as a country that has historically displaced folks who have invested time and energy and money into land and who are essentially there first, i.e. the flyers, that should be our focus, is how we are incorporating them into the plan, how we are keeping them. I think that that conversation kind of gets brushed aside. And that needs to be at the forefront, is whatever we are planning needs to revolve around the OG folks in the community that have been there for many, many, many years. Just saying.
Agreed, the flyers need to be an important part of this, but as a community, if we're going to take space that we have designated as a park and we want to change the way it's being used, like, for example, by adding a play space. We all agree, I think we all agree, that that would be a great thing to do out there.
Yeah, sharing is caring, man.
Yes,
That's
no question
essentially
about it. So how then that play space, and if it turns out there's a chance somehow that soccer fields get put out there, okay, let's consider it. But in the meantime, step by step, play space, we've been talking about that 2017. Flyers have been there forever. So given wind directions and east and west, north and south, and how these guys need to use that space, if we have a best option for a play space, but it's in their flight path, we have to share and care together somehow that we can move things around, that if we can, both parties are happy. Not just, sorry, everybody's happy if that's possible. So I hear you, but I think also the flyers, important, very important to our community and very important to that space out there. We need to find a way, if they have to turn this way or move over there because we need to do that, we need to figure that out. It can't just be, yes, they are the OGs, but they need to understand how we need to also bring in new things to that park. So.
It sounds
I
like
think-
they're very,
It does.
absolutely.
It does.
You know,
Yes, it does. All right,
Let's
Yeah.
keep moving on. Actually,
Yeah,
why don't we go right into
all I
town
would say
ballpark?
is just don't factor the DDA
No, we're
into
not.
your plans right now.
No, I mean, because the other component of this is a perimeter path around there.
Uh-huh.
And actually, that's where it's like, a lot of these things can all be incorporated into this area. So it's not like we can only do one thing and there's
Right.
multiple things we can
Agreed.
do. I think, we talked about the natural play space for a while. I think Brandon's here, Dan, let's go
Yeah,
transition right into
Yes.
that and figure out.
yes.
Because I know there was a meeting, I did not attend, I don't know, Rita, if you wanna, or whoever, meeting last week.
Last month, you mean?
No, with
No,
Dan and.
Brandon,
Oh, right.
or Brandon, if you guys wanna.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah, why don't you guys-
And I also would like to talk about the pathway, where you guys are coming up. So Dan and,
Brandon,
Brandon, why don't you two come up and let's talk a little bit of, Eagle Scout. Project, and then also, Will Chico here, he talked about that pathway that we had here. We can do that this year. It's great. But we should. Hi, thanks for coming, Dan,
and Brandon, yes, thank you.
both of you, right?
So you guys met, last week, right
We
out
met
there?
last week
Last
and,
Wednesday.
Brendan, presented some of his ideas to Dan. One of them being the, rope climbing thing, and Dan has, here's that discussion. Who else was there? I was there, you were there. It sounds like it can be done in such a way that, safety is, well, I'll let you speak to it. You guys go
We have
ahead.
Brandon go first, then Dan chime in, does that work?
Yeah.
You guys, tag team?
Murphy, I sent you my presentation. You guys want to pull it up, but if not, that's okay. Might not want to.
Oh, I'm sure that's possible.
So what makes up the climbing or rope structure is two wood posts that are confirmed to the ground. They're solid into the ground.
Brendan, is there a way that you can log in so we can bring this up? I think you sent it so close to the beginning of the meeting that.
Dan, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, can you speak a little bit to folks that don't know you?
My name's Dan Farrow. I'm a landscape architect. I've focused on park and playground design for over 30 years and really started out, owned my own company and started building playgrounds using mostly manufactured equipment. And through the years, have Still do some playgrounds with manufactured equipment, or at least some components that are manufactured. But in the last, I guess, since about 2018, we've really started focusing on nature play and creating playgrounds using natural materials, logs, boulders, landforms. Still focused on child development, inclusion, activities, that benefit a wide range of users. So it's all pretty much fundamental to standard practices within the industry. We're just using different materials.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
A little longer.
That's great, yeah.
Dan's with MRC.
Oh, okay,
We signed the contract.
okay.
Right, so that's where
I hear you.
he's a
All right.
technical expertise, because Brandon has some good ideas, and we've seen other things in, let's say, the city of Ann Arbor out here. But we need someone that say, we can do this
Okay, you're
safely, and how
MRC,
you
that
can do that.
helps
I'm
me out.
sorry, yeah, with
Yeah,
Michigan
okay, I
Recreation
get it.
Construction,
Thank
we do a lot of work with and City of Ann
Yeah,
Arbor.
okay.
So the work that you've seen in Ann Arbor, most of that's been stuff that I've designed. Almond.
Okay, we've talked all here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Excuse me. Work on Leslie Park.
Yeah, yep, Leslie Park is one that I'm still building and working there with Susan Westhoff and company there.
There, the kids will love it.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what we do, in the nature playground, you know, that's one of the things that we, that's. I mean, it's all site specific and driven by what your budget is, what your vision is, and I help you realize that. If you have one, if you don't, I have lots of vision.
We would get Brandon logged in, looks like potentially.
So if you go down to Barton, by the dam there, they just, took a 150-year-old oak tree and, made a play structure. I took my grandson there the other day. It's fabulous.
Yeah, that is one we're gonna have to put. And that tree had to come down just for the playground now. It was fading as determined by
Ann Arbor's forestry, they were saying, yeah, there was.
forestry determined that, and it was the city decided to utilize it as a play structure. And so we just moved it about 100 feet and trimmed and turned it into a pretty cool place. I invite everybody to go see it. If you know where
Close
it's
by,
at,
really,
Barton Dam.
yeah. They've done some great work here in Ann Arbor, man.
Where, Barton?
Barton, where the dam is.
Oh.
Nature area.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah, right down the road from my house, yeah.
So, you ready to go, Brandon?
I think so. Hopefully. So. I'm sorry if there's any grammar or any kind of mistakes in there. I was up, last few nights doing this, so. You guys forgot, the basic description of the park is it's gonna be a long pathway going into 3 open areas. One's gonna be a log area where you can run and jump on logs. One's gonna be the rope climbing structure. It's very similar to that one, just made of wood and a net, and then the sandbox area. A bit more detailed, that pathway is gonna be 8 feet wide and 30 feet long. And it's gonna open up into the rest of the play area. On the left of that is gonna be the log area. On the right will be the climbing structure. And if you go around a pine tree that is over there that we're leaving alone and letting grow, is gonna be the sand pit. The pathway, the log area, and the rope climbing structure will all be covered in engineered wood fiber, which is ADA compliant and ASTM compliant. And then the sandbox will, of course, be filled with sand. We're getting sand from a place in Brighton, and they're gonna be able to deliver it. The people I have delivering the engineered wood fiber are able to install it themselves as long as we have the area dug out. The climbing structure, the 2 posts that will be stuck into the ground will be 9 feet long About 4 feet of it will be stuck in the ground. 3 feet of that will be in the ground, the other foot will be where the wood chips are. And then you have 2 beams, one at the top, one at ground level, connecting it, and on the inside of that will be the net. We're getting the net custom made from a place in Florida called the Net House. And we're be able to connect the net, that custom net, to all pieces of the wood, both to the post and both to the beams, using lashings, using other rope. Some imagery here is that'd be like pathway right here. This would be the log area, the climbing area, and the sandbox right here. You can see a 3D image of it. On the engineered wood fiber area that's covered with it, that will be 12 inches deep. Way we're gonna buy it is we're gonna buy it so that once it's compacted down to 12 inches. And every year we'll have to get more wood chips in order for it to stay in good shape. The sandbox is 18 inches deep. There's no like gravel or anything else in there, it's just sand. And that is kind of what the rope structure would look like. It's not the best detailed image, but you can imagine that would be rope on the edges connecting the big net in the middle, and nice and tight. Some financials here. The engineered wood fiber to cover the whole area, you need 60 cubic yards, which would go about to $2,300. And that is directly from the place I'm doing it with. I think they're out either in Grand Rapids or somewhere else. The sand is gonna be $1,000. There's 340 for shipping because it needs to be shipped in 2 trucks. I'm getting 9 cubic yards at $81 a yard. The custom net from Florida is 2,400. Does everything, it's ASTM approved, it's treated, it will last up to 10 years with the one I'm getting, and you'll have to replace after 10 years, or unless someone comes and cuts the net, then you'll have to get a new one. With the lashings, the rope I'm planning on just getting from Meyer, 100 feet of it to lash it together. And to secure the wood to itself, using timber lock screws and brackets. And then the silt fencing will divvy up the areas so that when we put in the EWF in the sand, that it's nice and divided. It's not getting all messy. And it will come to about 6,000, could be more with some shipping. They said they would get back to me on how much shipping would be for the custom net. So.
About the engineered wood fiber, is that a delivered and spread price?
Yeah, that's delivered, spread, and like installed. So the only thing we'd probably have to do is make it nice and even, if that.
Is that less than you thought it would be?
It is a lot less than I thought.
What kind of sand? What kind of expensive sand?
It is Michigan beach sand. So it's from a place that Dan recommended. So they're in.
The question I was gonna have is, if you guys have coordinated, he's run this past you for.
This is the first time you're seeing the presentation. I've asked him, I've sent him like 4 emails in the last like a week. About questions I had on the climbing structure, where to get stuff and everything else.
So Dan, so these are the same materials that you would be using if you're doing this project?
Yes, yeah, there might be some details that I'd wanna.
Right, tweak.
No, not necessarily, I just wanna review it to make sure. If I would, just the net, the spacing on the net looked a little tight, but I don't know if that was a graphical, difference that, did you do that on SketchUp?
No.
Oh, okay, you did something.
I couldn't figure out.
I was trying to get him to use SketchUp, but it did look different than SketchUp. But anyway, yeah, there'll just be some things that I would want to just coach him up on and make sure that when it's all said and done, that it works for everyone and it's in compliance.
And it's safe for a municipality.
Yeah, well, yeah, safety is an interesting subject. We can only.
Safe as it can be.
Well, I say compliance. It's in compliance with the safety standards, I guess thereby inferring that it's safe, but.
No, you can fall into her.
Exactly.
That's always.
So we just want to be compliant, make sure we're in compliance with ADA I mean, with, yeah, well, ADA, ASTM, and the safety standards that we use. They're not ours, they're national safety standards. We didn't come up with them.
Well, Randy, continue, go ahead.
Yeah, so-
Kind of already went over this, but when you're installing it, you dig, all those areas to 12 inches, you fill it in with the EWF, get compacted down to 12, that was 12 inches. You do the same thing with the sand, with the rope structures and the log play area, you dig before you put in the EWF and, yeah, just the EWF. And you put the logs in, put the posts in, make sure they're nice and secure and tight. And then you would put the EWF in as the last thing you're doing. Any screws that would go into the climbing structure, no one could get out unless they brought a drill or an impact driver to get it out on purpose. So it'd be nice and secure. And same with the lashings, they'd be tight enough and screwed down where if you wanted to get it out, you'd have to try really hard.
Is there gonna be some border around the sand pit, like a wooden border? What's the plan there?
Right now, there's no plan to have a border. It would be fine just as sitting in the ground.
Well, I was hit. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, I don't, it's.
Yeah, we could add a border if we wanted.
You could add a border, different materials.
It's nice to have something that, for people like me that are challenged, they want to get down that low to the ground and then actually stand back up to not have to sit right on the
Yeah.
ground. I used to be able to do it, used to be able to stand right up, but no.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Going back to the map, you'd have the EWF going into the sections of A1, B2, B1, and B3 and B4. That'd be where the rope structure, the log area, and the pathway would be. And then the sand, and C1 for the EWF. Sand would go on D1, that's where it'd be, and E1 on the diagram is where the log play area would be, and the climbing structure would be in B3, depending on parameters. What order would it get done in? I would take the logs that we're using to put in the log play area and the wood that MRC has graciously offered to donate for the climbing structure, and I would prepare it. I mean, debarking, sanding, and cutting to whatever it needs to be, make it worked out. Once that's all done, I dig out the respective areas, dig out where the post would go, where the tree logs would go. Place those logs in the necessary places, make sure they're secure enough where they can't move. I would then finish the climbing structure before I would put the EWF in, and then once that's done, you put in the EWF. Using and dividing the play area in the sandbox, using self fencing, so nothing is in the way of each other, and then you put the sand in EWF on.
So we understand this, so your focus is on leadership. And so you won't physically be doing all these things, you will be overseeing it being done.
I would be overseeing it again, though.
And do you have a stream of volunteers associated with your group that you can help, or who's gonna be recruiting volunteers? Is that your-
I would be recruiting volunteers, so how it kind of works is I announce a work day. So I plan out what day I'm gonna work, what I'm gonna be doing on that work day, what I achieved to get done. I would ask for X next people to come, I'd announce it at my meetings, I'd ask my friends at school, I'd send emails. I would let you guys know, because I know some of you guys said you might want to help out. And that's how I would get the people. And using those people, I'd ask them if they could bring tools, if they could, safety things, like if I were working on the low climbing structure, I was standing or anything, I'd ask them to bring safety goggles, or I would provide safety goggles. I'd ask them to bring work gloves, or I'd provide extra work gloves. And they would get it done. I would lead them, tell them what to do, how to do it correctly. And on the thing, the EWF, when it goes in, the place that we're doing it, I plan on doing it with, has offered to install it themselves. So I would go out when they plan to do it and help them out with that. So, and tell them where to do it.
Hey, and just for clarification, I mean, digging out 18 inches or 12 inches in that area, I'm thinking we need some equipment to do that. We take a lot of people with a lot of wheelbarrows to dig out. So we're gonna, at some point, gonna hire a contractor to dig that area out, because moving that much dirt by shovels is,
Like a little excavator.
or skid steer probably.
Yeah, take a look. Even, it is made out of sand kind of dirt, so it's easier than like clay or anything. So it'd be quicker than other things, but yeah, an excavator would make it a lot faster.
However you wanna do that, but. I would, yeah, I'd be available to.
I guess I'm thinking we're gonna have to hire someone or some to dig that out.
Yeah, I'm just talking about, like, obviously MRC.
Right.
Or somebody in the community that has equipment that's
Right.
used to, but what I could do is, make sure that it's graded. Optimally.
I mean, it's not a huge project, but you need some
No,
equipment.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, you want it to fit into
Mhm.
to the site.
Right.
And you put, if it's not fit into the site, it would be really.
Then we also talked about material generated from this digging, you could build a berm somewhere, mound it up and build some,
Yeah, and
further
that's.
to the north
Well,
or
it
some
could be
other.
adjacent to this too.
Yeah, adjacent, yeah, that's what I'm saying, close by, close proximity.
Play feature. of-
Right, another play feature, which is sort of free of charge, because we
It
got,
is free.
yeah, the dirt, we got, but.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be another thing we'll have to sort out, how we, either local contractor or MRC, how we hire someone to.
I'm wondering if we can have people in the community volunteer, if they, if they. Maybe that would happen, someone in
Put it
the,
on the website.
put it on the
It's like a-
website,
Yeah.
maybe put some signage out saying, we're doing
Yeah.
this, and you could be part of it.
Probably lots of people with us, there it is.
Yeah.
Little skid steer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, have you folks walked the site?
Yeah, I planted flags there. I've
Okay.
done.
So where do you plan at, where does you plan to put this vis-a-vis the big fields where the airplanes fly and vis-a-vis other things that are currently there?
The three designs you got from Johnson and Johnson, it would go where 1 and 2 have it. Where right there, as you walk into the park, it'd be, you go a bit to the left of the road and it'd just be right to the
So
right.
kind of in the wooded area before it opens up into the big fields?
Yes.
So
So
kind of a scrubby.
Scrubby,
Well, yeah,
it's an area.
it's kind of open already.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
open. We've been out there, marked it out.
The approach to the big field.
Yeah.
Sort of,
Right.
for lack of a better way.
And
You
one,
can go back there, John, it's all marked out.
I will, after the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one thing I would like to say is, I would like to make sure, when we were out there the other day, I was thinking about that this morning is I'd like to make sure it's far enough away from that little road where people are gonna be driving in and out.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a toddler just take off? I have. And I'd hate to see a toddler go running towards that road, if we could just make sure that it's not close to the road.
Well, then to what Roy was just talking about, building a berm, I mean, we could build a little toddler prevention berm, seriously.
They have
for
to
the
climb
road.
out.
Yes, and then frankly, to your point, I've been chasing grandkids around playgrounds now for a couple of years. And in Boston, they had these wonderful kind of berms built up with benches that just back right up into the berm so that you could sit and there's the climbing net, there's the play structure, there's the whatever, and there's all kinds of easy seating for, elders. And if we could involve, find a way to get some of that going too, be great,
I mean, some of the logs could be easily converted into a bench.
Bench, yeah.
So we have some walnut logs out
And
there.
again, we might have someone in the community that can help
Mhm.
that does woodworking,
Mhm.
that might like to,
Yeah.
get a hand out here, because I know a lot of people that are.
So saying all those additions, since I'm working with BSA, what I proposed to you guys in March is honestly the same as this. I've changed a few materials, I've changed the scale of the project a bit because it was a lot smaller and I messed up, I'm gonna be honest. I used the wrong pricing for everything, and so the price I gave you guys earlier was a lot. I got my figures wrong, so yeah. And I almost did that when I was planning for this too, but I didn't. I have like triple checked all my stuff. Right now, this project itself is all I can do. If you guys wanna add benches on, if you guys want burns, that stuff you can do out of where I'm working.
On the road, I would recommend, you said you're gonna get it admired, I would talk to your consultant, because he might say you need nylon, you need polypropylene, you need or polyethylene, you need Dacron, there might be certain kind of specs for ropes for softness or UV. I can't imagine, go ahead, I defer to him.
Yeah, actually, I said Menards is where
Yeah, the rope is from him.
you said Meyer.
But,
Oh, my,
Yeah,
there's probably specs on what rope.
yeah,
you
yeah,
should
it's
use.
5/8 braided polypropylene.
Okay.
That's what we use. I told him we get it from the net house, but in a pinch, we go to Menards, they sell it 50-foot lengths. If we need it, but we usually buy a 500-foot roll of spools. So, but he doesn't need.
I don't need that much.
So I probably need more than that.
So the way the rope was wound around. Okay, here's my worry is, I'm sorry, but if someone cuts one part of that, is the whole thing done?
We do it so that one part of the rope wouldn't, if like one part did get cut off, since it's attached to all four parts of the wood, it'd still affect it, but it wouldn't like bring down the whole net.
And during the 10-year life of that rope structure, is there any maintenance required or is it just gonna be fine?
It would be fine. You'd have to check it like weekly to make sure there's like no like sticks or.
Yeah.
Yeah, vandalism right in.
There are other, there's another type of netting that you can get for this project, and Brandon showed in his plan, or in the first images that he shared. That's actually a steel cable that is wound with a, it's nylon, forget the name of it, but there's a specific type of material that they use, polyamide, it's a nylon. But that is actually a steel cable that is still cuttable, but it's much more difficult than the polypropylene rope, but it costs a ton more. There's, like in most public, like in the city of Detroit, municipalities, they're not even consider the type of rope that doesn't have the steel. It's not steel cable. When I say steel cable, it's what it is, but you don't perceive it as being steel cable. It looks like rope, but when you touch it, you can tell it's different, just because of the rigidity of it. So if you wanted to, I could get Brandon a source where he could have a custom one made for his frame.
What's your opinion in the value of making that, different, using that? I mean, would we find it's going to just, well, I don't know, is it worth the extra cost in your opinion?
If it's cut a lot,
Yeah.
yeah, but if it's, it just depends. Like I said, it could last 10 years, no problem. It's gonna be, but the other thing is it could be, it's highly used and it could be worn out, which to me is what you want. You want you want your plate reasonably to wear out. You don't want to have to be replacing it every year because it's wearing out.
Right.
But you want people to be engaged in it and using it. I would say that if you put it in and it becomes an issue, you can always go back and put in the steel cable version. And that would, maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Let's try it. And if it becomes an issue, then you have to, do something else.
Again, restart it again. For maintenance, which you guys were just asking about, for the engineer wood fiber areas, you'd have to replace it every year. About 25% of it gets away, gets more compacted, so you'd have to rebuy it about 12 cubic yards each time.
How much is that?
30.
$45 a cubic yard.
It'll be a lot more because you're buying
A lot less.
a little amount,
Yeah.
which you can.
The board's gonna wanna know the maintenance costs.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
important.
I would, the first year, you're gonna have more compaction and which engineered wood fiber lasts, it's varied how long it lasts at each site. Some sites, the wood chips or the EWF, decomposes at a higher rate.
Like in sunlight versus shade, or?
Ground moisture, if you've got clay. and
We have
you've
no
got-
shade out there.
Huh?
We don't really have any shade out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, so that's gonna be, the drier you can keep it, and you're never gonna keep it dry, it's like little sponges. So it's always gonna be moist, or have a certain amount of moisture in it. But the shaded areas and, what I've seen, shaded and, clay soils is where you'll get the highest, the quickest decomposition of the engineered wood fiber. And the amount of use that it gets, sorry.
No.
But,
And do you really have to replace it every year?
no, what he's saying is, top dress it.
Yeah.
And it'll vary. The first year probably more than the second year. And there'll become a time more than likely that you won't have to do anything after a while. But then eventually you'll have to do a wholesale replacement of all of it, and you'll have to dig it all out because it will turn to compost eventually. It's just what
A
happens.
few yards a year, top dress or something like that.
Yeah, maybe not every year. There's a lot of variables, so it's like, so maybe 3 inches the first year, and then maybe none the second or third, and then maybe another top dressing. So it does vary. And because those trucks are 60 is the minimum load. 60 yards is the minimum load. Without paying an overcharge. Short load.
And you don't want to use just regular wood chips?
No, you cannot. But I think that you can get, like some of the landscape, supply houses might have engineered wood fiber.
What differentiates that from regular wood chips?
It's specifically ground to be fibrous, so long, 10 times as long as it is, wide. And the longest pieces can only be 3 inches.
Does that make it softer, better?
It makes it knit together more, so there's a couple of things in play. You've got, impact attenuation, and you want it to be compactable without getting hard, but you want it to get to a certain point where you can meet ADA, surfacing requirements of firm, stable, and slip resistant. And so, like Brandon said, engineered wood fiber meets the ADA requirement for accessibility. It's not great at that, but it does meet it. And so we deal with all the different surfacings. Number one across the country, EWF, 90% or more of the playgrounds are EWF. The unitary surfacings of poured in place rubber or artificial turf or rubber tiles, classify those as unitary. Those are much more user friendly for individuals with disabilities or mobility impairments. But they have a cost, they're only going to last 10 to 15 years, but they're much more user friendly. But so it's always you're always balancing, what you're providing in your population. And so
We're using the engineered wood fiber because it meets compliance, it looks more natural. That was the reason we discussed it in March. It's slightly expensive, but it gets that way because it needs to be that way for it to work out.
the unitaries are 10 times the cost of the engineered wood fiber. So it's about generally $250 to $3 a square foot for the engineered wood fiber installed. The unitaries are $25 a square foot. They're seriously.
Kind of the same thing for the sandbox, should be like topsoil, once a year, and eventually should all be replaced after a long time. This one needs to be maintained more daily, more weekly, for it to get raked more often, and any debris needs to get out of there, and get cleaned out of everything. The rope structure, like we were saying, doesn't really need to be maintained. It's kind of like a lot of variables with it, of when it needs to get replaced and everything. And the log stepping area is same thing as the rope structure, checking weekly for debris or anything. And then replace them once they start getting worse.
I would like to go the sand. That's one that the kids are gonna transport it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna move it around, and you will have to replace that and add to it annually, if not more. That's how popular it is, but the kids love transporting sand.
It ends up in the minivan.
What?
It ends up in the minivan.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's every.
Yeah.
They'll take it over to the logs and they'll be stacking it on the stepping pods. And they're just gonna take it. That's what they do. The wonderful thing.
Yeah, it is.
For safety and regulations, like we've been saying, the EWF meets ADA compliance. All the materials are ASTM approved and standards. The rope structure, I read the exact ASTM, the F148-27, like 3 times, made sure everything was going over it. From what I've seen, the rope structure meets its standards and requirements. There's some things that happen after, like for the installer, the maintenance afterward. I need to provide you guys with instructions on how to install it, how to do it. They're kind of janky because like the rope structure is by my design. It's never been done before. My plan is when I'm doing it is to take pictures and keep instructions of while I'm doing it at the site. And so when you guys need to get it replaced, you'll have them more detailed and more set up that way. I have to follow BSA regulations and follow rules on my work days. And a lot of that includes safety briefs happening every day before I do anything. There's a lot of age restrictions on tools that can be used. For example, in BSA, you have to be 14 to use a wheelbarrow. Which a lot of people can use a wheelbarrow, you don't have to be 14. So, there's things I have to follow, but there's things that you guys have to know is that everything currently meets its standards. And so, many questions is where do you guys want that to go? You guys talk about it all the time, making different things. And then also one question I have about it is I am technically the designer of the rope structure. So if someone were to get hurt in any case and they were to sue you guys, I could be named in the lawsuit and that could be a problem. But since it meets all the regulations, there shouldn't be a problem. It meets all the fall height registration. So if someone were to fall in there, and guarantee you there will be someone to fall in there, because kids are dumb. They're gonna make stupid decisions. And
Kids are dumb.
they're gonna climb all the way up to the rope structure, get on top of it. They're gonna jump off because they think they're all smart and stuff, but they're gonna be making bad decisions. They're gonna be risky. It's gonna happen.
Why is it that you are designing your own instead of using somebody's previous design? Is that a possibility that you would consider instead of creating your own?
That was kind of the first thing I did, is I looked for ones that were all natural and that used wood and used like natural rope, and there wasn't really any. They're all either made of metal or they incorporate some sort of metal or plastic thing that you guys didn't want.
I happen to know a company that could build it, or at least provide the components for assembly on site.
Would you two be willing to collaborate on that, just so that we aren't using a design that hasn't been done before, that we aren't familiar with and don't necessarily know the risks of, And then we could actually just not have to, consider this. These are probably gonna be made to, yeah. So does that sound like something you'd be open to, Brandon?
Yeah, if I don't get sued, that's great.
I thought that we should have a conversation. It seems like two attorneys here that would have some insight and us lay people regarding liability and there's, I don't know if you're familiar with I think it's 1997 Volunteer Protection Act.
There's the recreational users statute.
So I didn't know if because he's volunteering.
yeah, right.
If that, would protect him. Because it was, way back when, we did a lot of community builds. And part of the problem was people were afraid that they're helping on a playground and if it was, somebody got hurt. And then all the people who came together to build the playground could get named in a lawsuit.
You just hold his dad responsible.
What's that?
We can hold it. We'll just hold his dad responsible.
Well, that's why I was, I was like, well, we should talk about it. At least
Yeah,
have some conversation.
That's a,
Yeah.
that's what we were talking about.
That,
That's an internal discussion. That's an internal discussion, I think, with staff in our in-house council.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'd be nice for you to grow up without having that thing on your head.
right, because, yeah, it doesn't matter if it's in compliance or not, too, you could get drug in.
Yeah.
That's,
So we've got,
that's the reality.
we've got two climbing structures, basically. We have the standing little logs. You could call that climbing, I guess. And then there's a net for climbing. Is it, I don't know, does it reduce? Okay, that's the question for the ether, reduce liability. Anyway, instead of a net climbing structure, if we're looking for the logs to climb on and yet something else to clamber on or do something. At Almendinger, you have this small little tunnel inside the play box. What if we just had a bigger kind of tunnel climbing thing instead of a net? Does that make any sense to do something like that or?
Well, it's part of the, variety that you would build into a play space. But the net in itself is not like a risky piece.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not.
My thought was that it was, but okay. Okay.
No, it's not, this one will be 5 feet or less, or I think the max
Yeah.
that you were talking was 6 feet,
Yeah,
which is not very tall. The safety surfacing is good for a 12-foot fall. The
Yeah, but
engineered wood
as,
fiber.
as a grandparent and I'm looking at my grandkids climbing on things and it's not just if they fall, it's if they slip and their leg gets caught in a loop and then they're upside down hanging and they're stuck in it. I don't know. I could think of all kinds of crazy things, but
We haven't even
know.
discussed the age group that this is designed for.
Yeah.
Safety standards for, typically, the ASTM standard that he's been referring to is written for 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-olds.
Okay, so what is this one built for?
5 to 12. This is
Okay.
gonna be a 5 to 12.
So to Rita's point, and I'm with her on this, we have toddlers running around. We need berms to keep them out of the road, but we also need to have, look, you have to be responsible. Yes, I know, but you have to be responsible for your own kids. I get that, but a little toddler running off to the net to wanna get up there with the big kids.
There'd be signage, I imagine, that says this is for
Yeah,
older
but
kids.
toddlers, I'm talking about toddlers that get out of your sight like that and boom, they're on a climbing net where they shouldn't be. They're not gonna read a sign. I mean, so.
The parents have some responsibility.
I know, I totally get it.
It's true at every playground.
Yeah.
There's ways to hurt yourself.
Exactly.
Right, but we are talking about liability and, all these kinds. I mean, it's a real thing, clearly. So all I'm wondering is how much does it reduce all of the stress over that if we didn't necessarily have a rope ladder, but we had another way for people to climb that maybe had fewer options on how people could get hurt. That's all. But, but is that even worth trying to go down that rabbit hole?
I feel like I've stepped off a curb and thrown my back out for 3 months. So, I mean, it's just,
I get it.
it's like,
I
I
know.
feel like whatever's there, kids are
Yeah.
gonna find a way
Okay.
to
Yeah.
I wanted to throw it out there, if that.
I mean, I totally
Fine.
get what you're saying. you
Yeah,
know,
okay.
but-
Sure.
Playground, you ask experts who know what they can do differentiate on that.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
I mean, you wanna, you wanna make sure kids aren't gonna stick their heads in. It's okay if they stick their feet in, I guess, but.
Well,
Not their heads.
not-
So I think that they're having some element of, he's danger, but for them to be challenged,
Yeah.
they need to be challenged.
mhm,
And there's something that they need to try to aspire to. And so those little kids, yeah, they're gonna wanna go up there. The problem usually is coming back down.
Yeah.
I find that with trees, kids can find a way
Yeah,
to get up a tree,
Yeah.
and then
right.
they can't get down, you know?
Yep.
So I understand that that's just part
That's
of the
fine.
fun, is to have
Absolutely.
that aspiration, and
Yeah.
hopefully there's an adult within screaming distance anyway.
Totally get it.
If the
Yep.
kid goes off like an alarm, then somebody knows they're stuck.
Yeah, you could fall off one of those logs too.
Yes, that's
So-
absolutely right.
So.
That's absolutely
You
right.
can't guard against all eventualities.
You wanna say something, Sam? Just, I know.
I was just gonna say, when I come back with the designs that you, signed the proposal for me to do, it's gonna be a lot different.
Okay.
Okay, and you'll have opportunities to look at things that are, because I'm gonna give you, like challenging. You want to have challenge built into a play space. In risk, because if you don't, the kids will create their own risk. They absolutely will and do. So some of the safest playgrounds you see out there are actually some of the more dangerous, because kids then are trying to create their own risk. It makes more sense to me to design into the play space an appropriate level of risks that they don't have to go searching, for a way to create the risk. We'll do that. And we've 30+ years, thousands and thousands of playgrounds. We've been involved in one lawsuit, and it was it really wasn't,
Well, thank you. I mean, I certainly feel better about hearing that.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
that's,
it's
yeah.
something that is, needs to be considered.
Yeah.
But who's here been to Greenfield Village?
A long time ago.
The play space there, has anybody seen that recently? We built it in 2013. But they evidently get a lot of lawsuits, but we never hear it. They handle all that,
Yeah.
and they're what are they, deep pockets? I don't
Yeah.
know, whatever, they're they have to deal with that. But the municipalities that we deal with in schools, rare.
Maybe a different mindset, people are paying money to go there, I don't know.
Yeah.
So would you say that theirs is designed to be too safe and therefore the kids found their own risk, or is that a risky playground?
It's not.
Oh,
The first accident that we heard about was on a 2 foot tall, literally a 2 foot tall slide that was built into poured in place rubber. Which fell down that. There's have to be a couple of attorneys and they.
yeah.
A lot of
So-
people go there, that's a high volume, because
Yeah,
field trips, I mean, you have a lot of people.
Yeah.
going.
Crazy numbers that they are dealing with.
I don't know if anybody else read this, but when this came through from Kristen or Christy, I think she sent these stories about risk and avoidance, reduction, transfer, acceptance. Sounds like stages of grief, but so there are all these things that we're obviously they're trying to bring our attention to this, which we were already thinking about anyway, but now I'm reading through this and it's like, wow, okay.
Provide a structure for analyzing it.
Mhm.
I mean, which I think is good.
Like an insurance expert that could go through and tell us, these are your risks along with Dan.
Well, yeah,
But I mean, ultimately, the last thing is acceptance, because I said, I'm gonna go ride my bike. Well, I could die, I certainly could, but I don't want to just sit in front of the TV.
No, I get it, and I don't want that either, but if we don't vet this then we haven't done what we're supposed to do.
This is what we're,
you know?
this is what we're gonna be doing.
That's all. Okay. That's great.
So, my guess is that the next thing that needs to happen, and John, you'll know this better than I, is this needs to go in front of the Board of Trustees before we can.
Is it ready? Is Brandon's presentation ready to go to the board?
One thing that you guys seemed to talk about was the rope structure. And Dan did talk about knowing someone that could do that more professionally. If that's the one problem, we could work that out, me and Dan, and get that covered. Get it where it's good enough where if you have backing from another company that already has instructions, everything can be taken care of, then you don't have to worry about it. The plan that you guys had in March totally got rid of the rope structure, which means I just had the log area and I just had the sand pit. If we did that same thing here, this would be ready to go to the board, because you had no other issues with anything else. And I would have to get rid of a few things that I had in my plans, but that doesn't matter if you guys approve of it. And I already got approval from BSA about getting rid of the rope structure if need be, for those reasons of it being a legal issue or a health issue.
Well, how does everybody else feel about, because after what Dan said about it, I'm feeling better about the road structure. I mean, how do you all feel about it? I mean, yeah, okay.
I like the idea. I mean, creativity is great,
Yeah.
but if there's a tried and true method, it's
Yeah.
good to consider that.
Okay.
Same. I
Yeah.
had concerns when it first came up.
Yeah,
And I feel much better after hearing what you're saying today.
yeah.
I think it's probably a good idea to take yourself out of the construction part of it, if you can, just so you won't have that to worry about.
Well, and if our in-house counsel has an opportunity, as you were talking about, or a volunteer, because he's a volunteer, does that protect him, you know? But I agree. I think if there's a tried and true method out there that's already done for the rope ladder, that probably would be better. You know,
And going forward, I think that that's what, I don't even think we should focus on the structure that you want to create. I think we should just go with something that Dan already has. That way we don't have to debate you doing it versus someone else doing it. We just know going forward, we're gonna go with a design that Dan's already familiar with and can help you with. And that way it's just continuing to reduce the risk involved. And I'll still talk to the township attorneys to figure out volunteer liability and future liability about all of the structures in general. But yeah, I mean, overall, I feel good about it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a.
Pretty sure volunteer liability is covered under BSA for when he's doing his project.
Unlike work days that I have, the people that volunteer for it are covered under like.
An insurance policy.
Yeah. So if they get hurt while they're doing my work day, I'm supposed to provide first aid, I'm supposed to provide like other resources, I'm supposed to provide food and other things. If they get hurt at something that's like really major, it falls under BSA. I don't get held responsible.
Okay, so I think if you wanna, if we can get this, turned up a little bit, make those changes and get it ready, maybe we can find a spot to present to the BOT.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not something we would act on today, though, to say we're ready to vote on this to go to the board. We want to see more, because it's much more refined than last time I saw it.
Right.
And I don't know if we want to wait another month to come back and approve it. I think we'd approve it contingent on that.
Yeah.
On that change.
I'd like to get it before the board so it can get started.
Then is the last kind of thing to consider, like the literal location of this? How does it, if in any way, affect the flyers' use of their space? And do we want to talk about? Yeah, no, I understand.
We're gonna walk out there right after.
No, I haven't. I'll walk out there.
We're gonna walk out there right after.
Okay, but all I was gonna say is regardless of where it's marked out, since I'm not a flyer and I don't know where the planes go, is it in a path?
Yeah, we're gonna go where,
Okay.
I think what I understand is if someone's playing in this nature play space and someone's flying, is that the idea is that they use a spotter.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So-
Yeah, and we would do that the Flyers would do that anyway. That we, even if we didn't think the playground was in our path, we would still place a spotter next to the Flyers. So.
Wait, I'm sorry, what did you say? A spotter?
A spotter, they use
Okay.
someone to,
Their protocol.
part of their protocol.
Oh, okay,
Because people are out
Yeah.
there walking dogs and whatnot anyway.
Right.
okay,
We do that anytime anybody shows up. at the park.
okay,
So.
didn't know that.
So can we do a resolution to approve this contingent on that change?
Sure.
You need something like, I move that the PPP recommend the approval of the nature play space as presented by Eagle Scout Brandon Boutet in consulting with Michigan. I forgot.
Recreation.
I have MRC, right?
Yeah. MRC.
Michigan
Recreation.
Recreational Consultants,
Construction.
I'm sorry.
It would
Dan
be
Perot.
motion to recommend
Yep.
to the.
I will recommend.
Yeah, I'm not an Eagle Scout yet. I'm potentially. This is the project.
This son, you will. I'm sorry, boys, so just boys, I don't need just
Eagle
Boy
Scout
Scout.
adjacent.
Boy Scout?
Just Boy Scout.
Okay. All right. So that was, I move that the PPP recommend approval of the recommend to the Board of Trustees or recommend approval of the nature place space as presented by Boy Scout Brandon Boutet in consultation with Michigan Recreational.
Construction.
And it's Brulette,
Yeah,
How do you spell that thing?
BROULETTE.
and you were referred to as an Eagle Scout in one of our notes, so that's just, yeah.
The entire time.
Entire time. Who knew?
Really embarrassing.
So this is an Eagle Scout project. That's why it's called that.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to become an Eagle Scout.
This is a requirement to get Eagle Scout.
I'm writing it up for you.
Thank you.
All right. So I second that resolution.
John, do you want to read the whole thing?
Yes. I move that the PPP recommend to the Board of Trustees the approval of the nature play space or the approval and installation of the nature play space presented by Boy Scout Brandon Roulette in consultation with Michigan Recreational Construction.
Excellent.
Yes.
Motion second.
Motion
You're the second.
I second.
Second.
We all have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, actually, John, sorry, are we not at this point concerned about the changes to the, since he's not going to be the architect of the rope ladder that someone else is, or?
This has to go to the board. This has to go to legal. This
Okay.
has a lot of other steps. Chang's gotta get a hold of it.
I just want
Gotta
to make
get a
sure it
hold
didn't
of it.
need to be
We're
said.
just passing it along.
I got it.
So, yeah,
Okay,
this ain't happening yet.
We need
I
to
got
write that into his presentation.
Yeah.
In my.
okay, fine.
You know that it's contingent on that first sheet.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
don't
okay.
have the power of the purse. The board does.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm on that board. That's why we'll see you when there's a presentation. But, okay, and when it gets onto the board agenda, depends when it's ready for board consideration, when it's been vetted by legal, when it's been vetted by staff.
Great.
Thanks.
all right.
I mean, I
Very
know
good.
what's happening.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good job.
Nice to meet you.
You stepped it up, kid. I like it.
And Dan, thank you so much for coaching along.
Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah.
Badge too.
you're earning your wings. You probably already earned them, so. let's move on. Okay. I think we can go on to new business. To the zebra pathway maintenance update. Can you talk about there? Do you know anything about the?
Yeah, really quick, so we can, well,
On this or on what?
Yeah. We're gonna,
Oh, hold on, sorry, hang on.
it doesn't have anything to do with Brandon's project. I just was gonna make comments on Township Hall Park in general.
During open,
I was gonna wait for the public comment section to
Yeah,
do that, so.
yeah.
Okay, that's good.
We won't forget you.
We won't forget.
Okay,
Oh, you need to go.
I need to go.
We're over, yeah,
Yeah.
a bit over.
I will come back some other time and talk.
I'll leave it to this, it's up to the chair to ask this body whether we want to take that public comment out of order, given your commitment.
I'll come back to the next meeting, because I think it can wait.
Well,
I'm happy to let.
I wouldn't, I'd vote to allow that if we can do that.
Do you have a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Good.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm gonna, I might take a full 3 minutes, but I might, so, okay. So again, my name is James Hartwell, for the record. I'm the president of the Scio Flyers, and I represent their interests when it comes to Township Hall Park. There's been a lot of comments I've attended. This is the second meeting in a row that I've attended in person, and I attended the, not the last Board of Trustee meeting, but the one before that, where this committee presented a report on the enhancements to Township Hall Park. And there were some comments that I'd just like to address, right? First of all, thank you guys for participating in that. That is really cool. Where we get a member of our community, a young member of our community gets to come up and do a project. Thank you for that. That was outstanding. I want to say something on behalf of the Scio Flyers to the committee. We offer a unique opportunity for an activity in the community that not a lot of communities have, right? We offer a place for people to come and get introduced to. It is a hobby, but it is a very advanced hobby with several STEM topics involved in it. And some of these committee members can attest to that we do training out there, and we train young people and old people in the hobby, and we introduce them to these STEM technologies. And there's not a lot of communities that can say that, right? There are some communities that have soccer fields, and I'm not against soccer fields. I guess what I'm trying to say is change the focus of this committee to recognize the resource that Scio Township has in the Scio Flyers, and make sure that that's fully considered when making changes to the Township Hall Park. And I know I'm very biased in this, so if there's going to be enhancements to that park, we would ask that you make enhancements to the park that makes it a better RC field. And allow us to continue to offer that unique opportunity to Scio Township as we have done for the past 30 years. There has been a comment about active park. I didn't know what the definition of active park is, but that's been an active park for over 30 years. There's been people in the Scio Township back there for over 30 years. So I don't know what the definition of active park is. Also, I want to point out that I went back and watched all the videos of every one of these meetings for the full year. I did that. So
Sorry.
the reason I did that is because I wanted to find out if any other member of the community has stepped up like I am now and spoke in favor of having an active park. And in my thought on that, an active park would have been a soccer field is what I was thinking. And in no other situation, no other meeting has any community member stepped up in favor of soccer fields. And it came out in this meeting that there appears to be only one person involved in this, or one group involved in this that's at all interested in active parks. In fact, there was data presented at the Township Board of Trustees where overwhelmingly the community of Scio Township has said that they wanted open natural areas, right? Overwhelmingly is the term. I think that's the term that was used at the Board of Trustees meeting. And I would argue that our field, the Scio Township field, has a lot less impact on the environment than soccer fields. So I pose these statements to this committee and I respectfully ask that you consider them as you consider the enhancements to Township Hall Park. Thank you for your time.
I have a question.
Mr. Pearl, could you spell your last name for me?
Hartwell.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there a question or is this not okay?
Well,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't wanna,
technically, no,
okay,
But-
fine.
but
Okay.
It's usually comments are comments,
Yep,
so
okay.
it's not. Always a big deal. Sorry.
Write it down on my list for-
To that end, I'm willing to answer any question, but I don't want to violate protocol.
So, if you ever wanna, we can always put you on the agenda to.
For presentation.
Appreciate that. I also have one other comment, going back to Brandon's presentation. Scio Flyers has a lot of and I can't speak for these guys, if we're gonna.
Excavator, you got an excavator?
That's what I'm saying.
That's where
That's what I'm saying.
All right.
We actually have a guy that grades the gravel road every year during our spring cleanup. And he's got a small excavator. So I can't speak for him because I can't volunteer him personally, but I'll tell you, I'll speak to him for you guys. All right? Yeah. Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, so,
Can I go on that? Can I go on that one?
yeah, Pathway, can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, they started on Monday. It's been closed. It was briefly open today for the 9/11 walk. It's closed, but I don't know, do you know, Murphy, when they're actually supposed to be finished with the upgrades, which they're going to stain it, place boards, work boards, screw down boards, so hasn't, as far as I can tell, in the last 10 years, hasn't had any maintenance, so that's ongoing as we speak.
It's supposed to be done by Friday.
Oh, wow.
Is it gonna be closed for a period of time?
It is closed.
Oh, it's closed.
Now.
Yeah, currently it's
Okay.
closed, yep, there's signs up.
Can I ask before I give this to Heather, is this accurate? I move that the PPP recommend to the BOT that they approve and fund the nature play space presented by Boy Scout Brandon Roulette in consultation with Michigan recreational contractors and landscape architect Dan Pearl. Is that accurate? Was that the motion?
Sounds right.
That's-
I
that's
heard
it.
people
Sounds
had
good.
names and things like that. I don't want
It's not contractors, though, it's the construction.
Oh. Michigan
Construction.
recreational
Construction.
construction.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michigan recreational
Yep.
construction.
Thank you, that's why I asked y'all. Heather will know it, even if I didn't.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay. All right, Chris, want to give us,
Yeah.
so is that?
And so that's it for that
Jump
board.
right-
I would also say that Roy, Steve and I will be meeting for Z Road Path 5, as far as the next section to be completed. We're meeting with one of the neighbors to continue that process, so we can start with the easements. So to continue the engineering.
Roy said he was spraying some paint around the area we're gonna meet on Monday. He's already been out there.
Oh, good.
He hasn't talked to Joe, but Joe's good. He's ready to go.
And then township hall bathroom, I don't know who, I've only heard the word on the street, but you might know more about it, what's going on.
There's a word on the street.
There's a word on the street.
Wow. It's getting rough. Is there any, what's the status on
that?
I mean,
So
If anyone knows.
what we've got right now is, we're also looking at replacing the HVAC system on the older part, this part of South Township Hall. One of the considerations is for geothermal. If that's one of the options that they go with, they're proposing to use one of the bathrooms as the maintenance room. So we're down to one, if that's the direction that we go in. So that's why there's a little bit of a hesitation at this point. Well, are we going to do both bathrooms or just one bathroom?
bathrooms?
Yeah, the bathrooms are constructed and they're plumbed, they just need fixtures back there. But they'd like to use one, if we go to the geothermal, it's going to be used for a maintenance room.
Utilities would like to, or contractor would like to, or who would like to?
I think it's just in general for the Township Hall, for the new sustainability of the HVAC system.
Is it really suitable for that? Is it big enough? Is it, and with all the plumbing stuff that's been already?
They've actually mapped it out and shown us a set of plans that, yes, that would be suitable for one of the bathrooms. If they go to the geothermal, we don't know if that's gonna be the recommendation. They're doing their study.
Possibly consider building a little outbuilding for the geothermal.
yeah.
So and what that cost is, we haven't gone down that road.
But
If
we
we're-
do still have the quotes for at least one of the bathrooms. So if we do want to jump on it and get at least one of these bathrooms with fixtures, it seems like now would be a good time.
Have we made recommendations that they do that in the past?
You mean to the board?
Yeah.
To the board?
Have we finished them as bathrooms, you mean?
I'm unaware of that.
But I think, yes.
Has this body made a recommendation that we use the bathrooms as bathrooms and finish our bathroom?
I
So,
feel like we talked about it when we sat in front of the board, but I'm not sure if we followed all the rules to make it a recommendation. It feels like that was part of what we talked about with the improvements out here with the park and the bathrooms. I'm pretty sure we touched on that.
so. With respect to like the bathroom, is that something that would be parks PPP money? So have we,
Yes, it can be.
what do we have budgeted? I mean, I missed the treasurer's report. Did we do a treasurer's report? I'm sorry if I was coming from another meeting. So how much, what do we have in our budget now for projects? What do we have allocated for that? Or, what do we have allocated for Brandon's project? So we don't spend money, but yet we collect money and make recommendations. How about how PPP money should be spent?
I believe that for the play space, I want to say it's at least $20,000
That's about right,
for
yeah.
Brendan's project.
Okay,
And then for the bathrooms, I'm very confident that there was money budgeted for the bathrooms.
and it sounds like,
It's
So-
about $20,000, 20 to 25,000 for both. So,
Sorry, you mean just to install fixtures?
Yeah.
It was, yes, but that was 20,000 for both bathrooms.
Were those
That sounds like enough for 20
That
bathrooms.
includes, they had.
were the bathrooms put in for the purposes of support
Service
park?
floors for salt, so it's going to
Wow.
That was the
just.
intent.
Needs to put in the same.
Okay, so it's more than just fixtures.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Except the fixtures. That was the intent. So, and it's not like a big surprise. It's been budgeted. Anna did it. Anna budgeted that money. So, I mean, it's been a long time
For the bathroom?
for the bathroom.
Yeah.
So why hasn't it happened? Do I need to do a better job on the board of getting motions and stuff brought forward or
I understand there's some pushback about,
maintenance
I
or?
think it's not only maintenance, but just even there's pushback in having the park, from what I understand. But the park's been there for 35 years, but there has been some verbal pushback about a park being there. So
And did they push back because their idea of the park was soccer fields, or they just didn't like the idea of a park, whatever that looks like?
Wow.
anyway,
I think it's, I think
I don't understand.
Oh,
it's, it might be, what's the vision for that space?
Yeah, right.
And I know we've got the PROS plan, and people weighed in on that, and
Yep.
and Heather had a great point about what do the residents want with respect to that
It's
part.
all in the pro plan.
What meets their, yeah,
But, and another thing that is there that we need to think about, this group needs to think about is, with doing all these park things, we've had some vandalism at, Liberty Pond. And it's good we have a gate out here where that.
What happened at
would be
Liberty
cut
Pond?
up. People driving through with trucks and just tearing up the trails. There's, people get in there with trucks and just drive through. And they blew up the trash bin and so I think we have cameras now that can be installed. I think they were kind of installed and then not really. So we're working on getting cameras out there. But the thing is, anybody, when you have parks, you have to have some kind of security at some point.
And
Can it be the sheriff's or is it this is something we have to think about as we go.
Yeah.
And Liberty Park and all of our other preserves are so isolated in comparison to this park, which is close to the sheriff's office, the fire department, the ambulatory service.
lights.
We have lighted parking.
And-
I'd say this is probably our safest.
Do we already have cameras out here?
No,
We have
we
the
do have a
flyers.
fixture outside of the utility garage for a camera.
That'd be great. We should definitely get, yeah.
But those are all things that are, that are rumblings among folks where they're not comfortable with, how are we gonna, what kind of security do we need?
Sorry, so to John's early question, then, do we have either a resolution or, I know you just said that it was budgeted for the bathrooms, but that's one thing to have it in the budget, but another to actually have steps to do it. Do we have steps taken to initiate? Because it's been approved?
I feel like we asked for approval or
Okay.
something, but
Should,
that's where the pushback came in. So,
Should we be writing another, I mean, should John be writing another resolution about the bathrooms right now to then send to the board? I mean, if we don't know that there is one and it's redundant, is that a bad thing
Yeah.
if we send another one? I mean, is there a problem with
And would
sending a
it-
second one?
If we're expecting maybe some,
So, Murphy, thank you. As a department head, you're also able to bring things to the agenda. I don't know, have you brought anything yet? Or that's a learning process, so there are staff that can help you do that. If you. So,
That would be the normal procedure for that department heads. When they want to spend money in their department, they come before the board. If you don't enter it yourself in the agenda, someone could help you do that. But I know that Brandon was doing.
Brandon does it all the time. He spends millions of dollars.
So you are responsible for the budget, carrying forward the plans, getting board approval. It's a very simple process.
yeah,
Once you learn the peak system.
yeah, and in terms of.
absolutely.
in terms of
Yeah,
software,
once you.
Don't we
The
need
process.
support, a recommendation from this board to move forward?
we don't have to have
If we don't need
the
it, we can
recommendation,
we can
but
schedule for it.
She might want that.
But I like it, I
Exactly.
want,
Yeah,
you
Support
know,
from the
I would like to
PPP.
have.
So I'll ask again, do we need to write something down and put it in the system to get it churning along to support you? And
I think so, and I
Okay.
think what I would like to hear from all of you is, do we want to move forward and try to get both of these bathrooms that we had plumbed
yes,
with this intent, or should we compromise and go forward just trying to do one of the bathrooms?
my thought is let's get them both because they're ready to go as bathrooms. Because if we give up one of them and then we try to make another one 5 years from now, because if this park does start to have higher usage and it does make sense to have a second bathroom, how impossible is it going to be to build a bathroom from scratch? We have them, let's use them. I mean, they'll build an outbuilding for maintenance or they'll figure something else out, even if it's for the geothermal. That's a different project altogether. That has nothing to do with the park. And I don't know why the bathrooms were there to begin with, unless it was to service people walking around back there. I don't know. Am I
well, it's always
wrong?
been a plan that this would be an active use park, and I
Okay.
think when they did the remodeling of this building, that was why they did that,
Okay,
but they've never been installed.
oh, look, great.
So,
Let's take what's right in front of us as low hanging fruit and do it.
well,
Let's
if you don't
both
take
of
it in front of the board, then you're not gonna figure out, I mean, what the commitment is, as far as having bathrooms there. I think that's a good.
So is there a way you could make the motion though, that we're not locked in, that we have to do both, that it gives us the option that we're gonna at least do one
Well,
with the.
we ain't doing nothing.
Right,
on
this is
the
just a
PPP,
recommendation.
y'all.
That's correct. It's a
Yeah,
recommendation.
okay, John, I think we all know
Yeah,
that.
if we say two and they say, well, that's nice, but we'll do one. Or, so.
Well, fine, but if we say
make our
one, we're not gonna
recommendation.
get two.
What's that?
If we say one, we're not gonna get two, so let's say two.
What is the nature of each of these potential restrooms? How many fixtures are they plumbed for?
One each.
And is it a
It'll be
unisex?
family,
Was
yes,
that to be
yes.
like unisex and then family, or, you
Both are gonna
know,
be
men's room,
family.
ladies' rooms, or?
It's just both gonna be family stuff.
Yeah. If we don't get two, we'll never get a second one. I say we go for it, we get the two, okay, we can't do it, yes, I know, but let's say we need two.
Well,
I
do
think
we
it's
need- do
also-
we need two,
Yes,
based on the huge demand for bathrooms now?
John, you know what we're trying to do, we're trying to get more people to go back there.
I agree with you. I'm
Okay.
being a little devil's advocate.
Oh, well, okay,
So
fine,
let's
so,
talk about the future and how we want this site to be used. Not
That's
only
right.
is it going to be ideally a park that is more frequently utilized, though it is still now frequently utilized by people that walk their dogs and have
Mhm.
walk back there with their kids. I've met so many people over the last 4 weeks just going out there and saying, how long have you been walking here? 10 years, 12 years, 15 years? Like, people are using this, and those bathrooms could encourage more use, especially with the park, especially with having kids. But long-term, I think this could also be used as a trailhead for accessing the Z Road pathway, and this could be a great spot for people to start and end, which would also just
Totally.
bring more attention to the park itself.
With the
And-
playground, there'll be a need for something. I have a question that probably doesn't have an answer. There's a porta john out there. Maybe the flyer.
Oh, that's the flyer.
Yeah, flyers.
How much does that kick you? Maybe.
Well, they must be in
That they
charge
pay
of
for
paying,
that, though.
they must pay for the minutes.
Yeah,
People use it.
And somebody somewhere's figured out a formula that if you have 100 people walking in or 20 people walking in, that requires 1.5 bathrooms per 14 people. I mean, there's gotta be an equation. That figures that out.
I just don't know.
No, I know.
yeah, I have a vision that I think that the township would be, it would be really good for the township to have some kind of maybe annual festival or something, and this would be a perfect location to start that.
Sure.
And if they had something even like sustainability, you know, we're gonna use the Myers parking lot, well, what if we could use our park back
Yes,
here?
of course.
Okay, so the problem is if someone needs a bathroom, they have to drive to McDonald's, right?
Right.
So we have to think about what do we want in even 2 years, not even in 5 years.
Yeah,
But what makes sense? If you're gonna do the bathrooms, just
Mhm.
do the bathrooms, get it over with.
get them both done.
And
Right.
but you do it in such a way that they're secure, they're locked
Mhm.
after a certain time. And,
Right.
you know, do our best and yeah, there could be problems,
Yes.
but do our best. That's-
So do we need to write something
He's
today
working on it.
to, oh, very good.
He's
Thank
about
you.
to make his second.
Yes,
resolution.
good. I keep saying we, it's the royal we.
Listening to what, I don't know, it sounds like somebody wants to move that the 2 exterior bathrooms located at Township Hall be finished with the use of PPP funds.
Yes, and Chris already has quotes from Phoenix.
Phoenix contractors, they're the ones who actually built
Yeah,
them, so they just didn't.
he already has quotes. It's like, it's just waiting to happen.
We also have a quote for the electric door box,
There you go.
Yeah.
which would integrate into the system that we already use for the building.
And would PPP be the ones to also write a resolution to say we want a camera out there for vandalism's sake?
I don't know that we need to get that deep in the woods. She's got autonomy, she's got a budget,
All right.
she's got a brain,
Great.
let her manage her department. I don't think we need to tell her that
The
level of
detail-
detail.
Details,
All right,
right.
you got the camera
All right, sounds good.
or a plan, so.
Do you have a resolution?
It's not a
I said it, but then it got waylaid.
Okay, well, do you want to say it again or what?
I said that I move that the PPA, also known as the PPP, support finishing.
Recommend that the Board of Trustees appropriate funds.
We have the funds. The
Okay,
PPP has the funds. Yeah. That they approved the funds.
finish out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I move that the PPP recommend to the Board of Trustees that the 2 exterior bathrooms located at Township Hall be finished with the use of PPP funds.
Yeah, that's good.
A second.
Perfect.
All in
Thank
favor?
you.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All right.
Thank you, John.
There we go. That's-
All right. I think we are at a point where we can do our second public comment. You are in the hot seat.
Yeah, the Kathleen Ryan, I just, you folks don't have rules that say people can't talk from the audience. That's not a rule that you have. I really encourage you to let people engage. I could have answered a lot of your questions. I'm not saying that I'm a know-all, but I do attend almost all of the township meetings. So letting this gentleman speak when he needs to, please relax your rules. People have valuable content to give you. Another chastisement, the Eagle Scout has been coming before you for a year. I worked on an Eagle Scout, I volunteered on an Eagle Scout project on Pratt Road for Popkin Cemetery. It was a half-day event. It was cleaning up property that has essentially been abandoned. The scout had a hand drawing. We cleaned some debris, some wild raspberries, made a simple path with logs around it. He bought mulch, people put the mulch in. He was done in a fraction of the time that Brandon has committed to this. Please get this in front of the board. John can bring that, Murphy can bring that. If you're concerned about liability, take it over yourselves, as Murphy suggested. Give the guy a break. I mean, he's given you more than I have ever seen. I mean, he should be satisfied with his requirements just by making the design and, you know, saying all the materials, so.
An exceptional project.
It is, I mean, he needs to get this done, you know,
There's a
for.
lot of moving parts and I know that his parents are kind of frustrated, but I
I'm
don't
just
know.
talking from a
Anyway,
speak,
I don't really want to get into a big discussion about it. I really don't. But I appreciate your comments and we are trying really hard to get this done. But it's not as cut and dry and we're
Yeah.
doing our best. We've put a lot of energy into this.
We're not just
So,
moving raspberries.
I
gentle
apologize.
chastisement, please get it forward. Okay, I had something else until I was taken off track. John carried forth and acknowledged that you are an advisory committee. You have a member who is a department head. She brings everything forth. As an advisory committee, the board will approve all your expenditures. So you just need to present it in front of the board. The board may decline your 2 bathrooms, but they have the broader perspective of anything else going on. So you can make motions, you can bring that, but please, you are an advisory committee and the board will, you know, support you. That's what they do. So please allow people to speak more freely. I've been coming here for 3 years and I think your rules are disrespectful to the people that do come here. To shut them down. Thank you.
Anyone?
Yes, we have Pam Boyd. She has her hand raised.
Thank you. Pam Boyd, a Scio resident, Scio Community Newsletter. Welcome, Director Harrington. I've heard a lot of good things about you. Heather, thank you for your excellent comment earlier in the meeting. That really hit home for me. I was about to mention, well, I'm glad that Mr. Hartwell brought up the board meeting of August 27th, where Rita and Roy gave a short presentation in front of the board. If you haven't watched that, I highly recommend that you do. You can view all township meetings on the Scio Community News YouTube channel. And by looking at that, you will get some experience of the board's reaction to some of the things that were brought in front. And Rita, you had already left, but in my closing comments at that meeting, I thanked you for your very concise, well thought out comments. If there is a problem with an issue, and I don't have quite the right terminology, Rita, you mentioned some hesitation in moving forward with some issues. I would say the biggest issue that I have seen over the years is lack of a plan. For instance, if the park gets more activities, soccer, whatever it is that comes out, does the PPP have liability insurance in their budget? and who's going to be responsible for maintaining the park. So putting the park together is only one aspect. And like the young man, the Eagle Scout was saying that, you know, the sand is going to have to be changed out every year. It's like you need a specific plan, and people need to be liable or responsible, sign up to be responsible so that those things are taken care of. Who are you expecting to clean the bathrooms? If the bathrooms are specifically for the park, then shouldn't it be the PPP that maintains and cleans the bathrooms? So there's a lot of questions there that I think I have not really heard brought forth. And I think that that's part of why you're getting pushback, is because you're not bringing enough information. The board shouldn't have to work these things out for you. So that's my public comment. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pam. Anyone else?
There's no one else to have.
Those are all good comments, really. And I will say that I think this board works pretty good. I think our discussions are good. And I think there's been a lot of moving parts over the last year. So I want to thank all of you for staying at the table, because it's been a tricky year without Anna.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And thanks, Chris, for being with me. All right.
Well,
Thank you, Kathleen, for babysitting us.
Require some sort of cleaning and maintenance. That'll be done.
Well,
Right.
you know, the thing is, it's a young department and we have a lot of growing to do. I mean, even when they were talking about the soccer field, somebody has to run all that, there's plenty involved. You know,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot to think about and
Expenses and labor required. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it.
Stewards.
And that's the thing, depending on the language about these bathrooms are for general township building and or parking lot and or park use. Okay, fine, if the PPP needs to put the maintenance in the PPP budget, then let's do it.
Right.
But is it actually, because it's connected to this building, nothing to do with PPP when it comes to maintenance? Whatever that, you know, you can keep dicing this up in so many different ways. Yes, a plan would be great. Let's have a plan. But, okay, how do we determine who does the maintenance? Let's figure that
Something
out.
that's interesting that's happening here, in Scio Township that I don't know if we've really like gotten word on yet, like just as a community, like a singular community member, meaning like I haven't gotten word on this, but the township is actually working on hire facilities manager. So
okay.
they would actually have a facilities person that would then have maintenance people working under them, right? And so then, right, so it wouldn't be like PPP funds paying for a cleaner to clean the bathroom. It would actually be employees of the, so that's actually actively going down right now, is the potential hiring of a facilities manager, which would be a game changer for all of our parks. So I think that's something that's probably gonna happen in pretty short order, because they've been having monthly meetings about this.
Should that be?
They have an outside facilities like managers been volunteering and coming in as a consultant to like talk about like what that looks like. So anyway, that's
But
probably gonna happen soon.
That brings up a very good point, because should it be an agenda item for us in future meetings to talk about maintenance in its broader and very specific sense? Because if we have a utilities person to clean the bathrooms, that's one thing, but what if then we have a utilities person go out and rake the sand? You know, cut the grass in our park, so to speak. I'm only gonna call it our park because I don't know what else to call it, but you know, we're responsible for it. So there's budgetary utility kinds of maintenance, right?
Right, what we might wanna do is make a resolution or, you know, request that this new facilities manager, that part of their, you know, their job description is like parks maintenance, right? I mean, getting that written into their job description, like.
Does that handle,
Right?
but does that handle the budgetary commitment to that?
Well, that's the
Hey,
thing to
that's-
figure out.
Well, I think that's when maybe it might make sense to have somebody from facilities come to talk to us, if that's even the right way to do it. I don't even know. But
Yeah.
how do we differentiate dollars for maintenance when it's parks or bathrooms that have nothing to do with us, or maybe it does? we need to figure that out, so we have a plan for maintenance as well.
You know what a good first step might be is,
yeah.
I can find out who's leading these meetings. Maybe we can ask her to attend.
Sure.
I know it's a woman, but I don't know who.
Okay.
Somebody here that works at the township, but I don't know if, and I know it's not the clerk, but.
But even if it ends up,
Maybe ask her to attend a meeting.
even if it ends up not being,
About facilities.
yeah, but if it's not essentially our responsibility in the long run, clearly, we just don't know what our realm is in the cost of, how much do we put toward maintenance and why?
Yeah.
So let's start talking about it,
Mhm.
you know, so as an agenda item, you know?
And we have to do a budget every year, so,
Okay,
you know.
and when does that due?
Well, we do it usually, at the end of the year, it starts, it turns over April 1st.
Okay,
So we start working on it like.
next month or the month, or,
Yeah,
yeah, right,
we start working on it ahead of time.
okay,
But right now, we would like to spend a little money that we budgeted.
Yeah.
In the last
right,
few years. All right.
okay,
Right, I move to adjourn.
And I
second, third, fifth,
Right.
aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
Yeah,
6:10.
All right.
I did a report. I emailed it to you. I printed it for you. Call me if you have questions,
Okay.
but you never call me, which is fine. I'm not hurt.
I think
I don't know if it's what you wrapped up in everything else.
Yeah, you call me.
We have to talk about.
But I do wanna know where the soul connection is next.
Eagle Scout.
But, you know, I would almost think what you consider.
Did you already type them in?
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
Together in here.
No, I'll take them.